Gervonta Tank Davis might get his ass knocked out by Jake Paul, just how Jake Paul knocked out the NBA star Nate Robinson. You know what I'm saying? You guys remember that fight? Do you guys remember when Jake Paul brutally knocked out Nate Robinson and ruined Black History Month that year? I remember it like it was yesterday, man, because we were all excited. We were all talking about how Jake Paul is not a real boxer. And even though Nate Robinson is not a professional boxer, he is an athlete. He is a former NBA basketball player. You dig what I'm saying? Now, I know what you guys are thinking. How are you comparing Nate Robinson to Gervonta Tank Davis, right? Let me explain, right? Now, we do know Gervonta Tank Davis has been boxing since he was a kid, right? He is a professional boxer with a record of 30 wins, 1 draw, 28 KOs, right? The guy has over a 90% KO ratio. But at the end of the day, Gervonta Tank Davis and Nate Robinson are both athletes. Gervonta Tank Davis is 5'5". Nate Robinson is 5'9", right? Gervonta Tank Davis has a reach of 67.5 inches, right? Nate Robinson has a reach of 70 inches. So Nate Robinson is taller with a longer reach than Gervonta Tank Davis. You understand what I'm saying? Gervonta Davis, bro, he's only 5'5". You understand what I'm saying? Jake Paul, I believe Jake Paul is close to 6'2". Let me look it up real quick. Jake Paul height and reach. Let's look it up real quick, y'all. So Jake Paul is 6'1" with a 76-inch reach, right? Now, Gervonta Tank Davis has been in the ring with somebody that is the same height as Jake Paul, and that is Mario Barrios, right? Gervonta Tank Davis fought Mario Barrios. That was his first and only fight at 140 pounds, and Gervonta Davis ended up brutally knocking out Mario Barrios. I believe it was with an uppercut. That was a great fight, but he gave Gervonta Tank Davis a lot of problems in that fight before that knockout, y'all. A lot of y'all forget that. We got to give credit when it's due. Mario Barrios gave him a tough fight. He just ended up getting his ass knocked out. And let's be clear, Mario Barrios does not punch as hard as a Jake Paul because he doesn't come into the ring as heavy as a Jake Paul. Mario Barrios just went 12 rounds with a 46-year-old Manny Pacquiao. So I'm not gonna compare. Even though Mario Barrios is a professional boxer and he's been boxing longer than Jake Paul, we can't really, say, oh, well, Tank's going to be fine because, nah, Jake Paul is a cruiserweight / heavyweight. He usually fights at anywhere from 190 to over 200 pounds. So Jake Paul is going to punch harder than a Mario Barrios. And me personally, bro, after Mario Barrios just went 12 rounds with Manny Pacquiao, he needs to retire. Mario Barrios has 29 wins, 18 by KO, 2 losses, 2 draws. He needs to sit his ass down and retire. He had the fight before Manny Pacquiao ended up in a draw against Abel Ramos, right? So he arguably has 2 straight losses. You dig what I'm saying? He also has a loss to Keith one-time Thurman, who had his first fight in about 3 years at the time. And he has the fight where he got his ass knocked out by Gervonta Tank Davis, who moved up to his division. You understand what I'm saying? Now, with that being said, is Gervonta Tank Davis going to be able to handle the power of a Jake Paul? Because we know Jake Paul has some power in those gloves, right? He's punching. Now, I know some people can make the argument, hey, Wavy, why didn't he knock out Mike Tyson? Because he didn't want to knock out a senior citizen. Let's be clear. If Jake Paul really wanted to knock out Mike Tyson, he could have done it. But what's the point of that? What's the point of knocking out a guy that's almost a senior citizen, that's a Hall of Fame boxer? Why would you want to do that to Iron Mike Tyson? Why would you want Mike Tyson's legacy to be him getting knocked out by a YouTuber, Jake Paul? I think Jake Paul held back. And I think Jake Paul, because he has a real relationship outside of boxing with Mike Tyson, he decided not to do that, right? Now, he has his most recent win against Julio Cesar Chavez, and we didn't really see the power in that fight. But I will say this, he outboxed the shit out of Julio Cesar Chavez. You understand what I'm saying? And I believe that fight happened at cruiserweight or heavyweight. And Julio Cesar Chavez, he didn't show up in that fight until the end of the fight. You understand what I'm saying? So listen, we know Gervonta Tank Davis can punch, but is that punch gonna translate to a guy that's going to come into the ring, because Jake Paul, he can come in as heavy as 195. So I'm guessing Gervonta Tank Davis is probably going to come into the ring probably at 160, 165. Jake Paul is going to come into the ring at 190, close to 195, right? Is Gervonta Tank Davis, is he going to have problems hitting Jake Paul because he's so tall? Is he going to go to the body? Is he going to try to get a body stoppage? Because it will be easier for him to hit Jake Paul in his stomach than his head, right? But is Gervonta Tank Davis going to be able to handle the power from Jake Paul? Now, I hear people saying, oh, Gervonta Tank Davis, he spars middleweights and cruiserweights and heavyweights. Guys, sparring and an actual fight is two different things. Now, this is an exhibition fight, which means that it's not going on either boxer's professional boxing record. But as you heard at the press conference yesterday in Miami, this fight will be scored by judges. You understand what I'm saying? So even though it's an exhibition, there will be a winner and a loser on that exhibition boxing record. You understand what I'm saying? But you look at Gervonta Tank Davis's energy in both of these press conferences. It's clear as day that he has 1 foot outside of boxing and he has 1 foot in boxing. This is not the same Gervonta Tank Davis that knocked out Frank Martin. I believe that's the last time we've seen the true version of Gervonta Tank Davis. Gervonta Davis has had a lot of issues in his personal life. He's had multiple claims of domestic violence. He's had multiple claims of violence in general. He had that situation where he had a hit and run. He had the situation where he was at, I think, a college basketball game and he pulled his baby mom by her neck and pulled her out of the arena. This guy's a troubled man, okay? He's a troubled man. I believe that this is a cash grab for Gervonta Tank Davis. And I believe that I think Jake Paul really wants to win this fight because he knows that if he can knock out Gervonta Tank Davis or even just outbox him, that's going to elevate his name even more to where people can no longer say, oh, you're just a YouTuber. Because believe it or not, Jake Paul takes that personal. When you guys just say that he's not a real boxer and his fights are rigged and he's a YouTuber, he takes that shit very personal because he's out here doing training camps just like professional boxers do. And he's really putting it all on the line to really become a future Hall of Fame boxer. Not only that, he brings a lot of money and eyes to the sport of boxing. He has a bunch of women signed to his card. You guys see that Alicia Baumgartner is going to be the co-main event of this card. You feel me? Like, Jake Paul is out here doing more for boxing than some boxing. He's doing more than Tank is doing for boxing. Tank is out here giving you guys fights that you don't even want to see. And you still got people out here getting on their knees, glazing them, slurping them like a slushie. You dig what I'm saying? From 7-Eleven, the Coke flavor. You feel me? Like, y'all should be praising Jake Paul for what he's doing for the sport of boxing. Whether you like him personally or not, I know he can say a lot of things out of his mouth that's idiotic. But the guy, as far as boxing, the guy is doing his thing, bruh. Got his own promotional company. He not out here getting on his knees for Turkey Al-Sheikh and holding his hand like Terrence Buck Crawford is doing and playing footsies. He ain't doing that. He ain't going over there riding camels to get a bag from the Turk. He not doing that. The man is putting on his own fights, doing fights in Puerto Rico, doing fights over here in America, and he's breaking records out here for viewership on Netflix, man. So give respect when it's due. You feel me? But once again, just because Gervonta Davis is sparring with dudes like Jake Paul, that doesn't mean when he goes in the actual ring with all those people in the arena that it's going to be a sparring match. Because once again, you got a guy he literally said that he's going to retire after this year. He said it out of his mouth. And then you have a guy that has everything to prove. You feel me? Jake Paul doesn't need to make money off of this fight. Gervonta Tank Davis, he needs to make money off of this fight because he's gonna get a similar paycheck to what he got when he fought Ryan Garcia. I believe he was paid over $40 million for that. And now he's gonna get another $40 million plus payday against Jake Paul. And I don't think he's taking Jake Paul serious at all. He didn't even remember the date of the fight. He doesn't know Jake Paul's promotional company. You feel me? His trainer, Calvin Ford, didn't know. He thought that Jake Paul decided what the size of the gloves were going to be. This guy's all over the place, bro. He is not focused on boxing. He's not taking this fight serious. He's doing the same thing that he did when he fought Lamont Roach Jr. Because he gave one of his homeboys, Lamont Roach, a fight that he grew up with, that he was friends with, moved him up to his weight class. He went into this fight thinking that he was going to just be able to half train in training camp, right? He didn't even have Calvin Ford in his corner during the fight. And he thought he was just going to go in there and just do what he usually do, knock Lamont Roach out. But what he didn't realize is Lamont Roach came into that fight hungry and super focused, because he knew in the back of his mind, if I can beat this guy, I can become the future face of boxing. I can get the biggest paydays of my career, right? And you guys see what happened. Lamont Roach should have won. He got robbed by the referee for not calling that, when Gervonta Tank Davis took the knee. That should have been ruled a knockdown. And then the judges scored the fight a draw. You feel me? I think Lamont Roach won that fight by at least 2 to 3 rounds. You feel me? So then when it was time to make the rematch, and this came out of Lamont Bow Wow Roach's mouth, Lamont Roach said that Gervonta Davis took the rematch, right? Agreed to the rematch. They both went into training camp. The fight was supposed to happen in June. It got pushed back to August. August came. That's when Tank got arrested. Ends up getting out, beats the charge. Couple weeks later, he announces the fight with Jake Paul. So it's clear as day, bro, that you have absolutely no interest in fighting people that you could potentially lose to. So with that being said, man, I think Jake Paul is going to knock out Gervonta Tank Davis. And even if I didn't feel that way, I want Jake Paul to knock out Gervonta Tank Davis, because we need to get guys like this out of the sport of boxing. Guys that are boxing just for a payday, that aren't boxing for legacy, that don't want to give the boxing hardcore fans the fights that they want to see. Get them the fuck out of boxing. You guys talk all this shit about Devin Haney, but guess what? Devin Haney continues to give you guys fights that you want to see. You guys talk all this shit about Shakur Stevenson. Shakur Twitter Stevenson continues to give you guys fights that you want to see. So let's start praising the guys that deserve to be praised, and let's stop praising guys like Gervonta Tank Davis that, you know, he cares more about just making money, having fights where he feels like he has the advantage, having fights where he feels like he knows he's gonna win, and not putting his legacy on the line. So with that being said, man, it's your boy Wavy. Stay Wavy TV. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section. Make sure you subscribe, thumbs up the video, follow your boy, share the video. I'm out.